Hi, my name is Michael Rhodes, and today I'm talking about frequency. And in a way that we don't realize, frequency is the language of life. Everything is energy, and all energy has a frequency. Some people call it vibration. Some people will walk in a cafe, has bad vibes, I'm not eating there. Another person will walk in, vibes, what are vibes? And they eat there. And so we have different ways of feeling this. I knew a man, his name was Mars Lazar, and he was born with a psychic ability, I guess. He could see auras. And he didn't just see them, they were like huge to him. He saw them very, very powerfully. When he was 15, he went to a doctor and said, "There's something wrong with my eyes." And they tested his eyes, nothing wrong at all. He said, "But I see all these colours around everybody, around everything." He said, "Nobody else seems to see them, so there must be something wrong with my eyes." And the optometrist or whatever he was said, "No, I'm sorry, but your eyes are good. You've got 20/20 vision." And gradually as he got older, he met a girl and he learned that he could see auras. He could pick up a stone in the ground, and every stone he saw in a gravel drive had many of them had a similar aura, but they were all different. And it was interesting, he was in New York with a friend of mine, and they would walk into a cafe, and Mars, his name was, would back out of it. And Kim would say, what's wrong with you? You're backing out. He'd say, "Oh my God," he said, "the whole ceiling, there's floating vomit all over the place. No way I'm eating in there." And Kim would, he said to me, "Floating vomit?" He said, "I never saw any floating vomit," but he said, "Mars definitely saw it, and he wouldn't eat there." And one time he said, I insisted, and we went into a little place where he saw floating vomit, and he said, God, he said the food was terrible. It just was nothing good about it at all. So he said after that, when there was floating vomit, we never did eat in there. And he said every now and again we'd be walking down the pavement, and suddenly he'd do a sharp turn to his left or right, and go right round and miss a person. Walk way round them, like 2 meters, 3 meters away from them. And I'd say, "Mars, what's wrong?" "Oh God, you should see that guy's aura. It's all black. I'm not even going close to him." And so the aura basically measures our frequencies. And everything does have an aura. I'm certainly happy that I don't walk in and see floating vomit in restaurants, but there's many a restaurant I've walked in and turned around and walked straight back out because I just knew energetically it wasn't right for me. And so life is made up of frequencies. We're made up of frequencies. And isn't this interesting? When you're loving yourself, your frequency rises. Health, good health, is a certain frequency. It's actually quite a range. Bad health is a much lower frequency. Cancers and all those, they have a lower frequency. All those go into a lower frequency. And I could go into a lot of that and explain a lot of that, but that isn't the purpose. And so our relationship with ourself has a frequency. Everything has frequency. Our relationship with other people. When we're with our friends and we really, really, genuinely love those friends, forget like, we love those friends, our frequency rises and their frequency rises because they are on the receiving end. And quite often, those people will love you back and you get this lovely frequency. I've been incredibly humbled by the amount of people that say to me on my spiritual tour, men particularly, who come up to me, look me in the eyes and say, "Michael, I love you." At first I didn't know what to do with that, but gradually I became comfortable with it. And I would look them straight back and say, "I love you too," whatever their name was. And it was true. But it's not common that men go up to men that they've only seen as a public speaker, they're not close friends with, and talk of love. And every time that's happened, you could almost feel a shift in the energy. It lifted. And both of us walked away feeling the better for that. Appreciation is a higher frequency. Gratitude is a higher frequency. And then we have attitude. And if you have an attitude that it's all wrong and it's their fault, your frequency is going down. And then you'll find your attitude will create problems. Whereas if you have an attitude of life's wonderful, and if there's anything comes along as a challenge, I can deal with it. That attitude lifts your frequency and the problem dissolves itself. I could almost say in my life, I don't have problems anymore. They just seem to dissolve. I look on them as challenges. I don't feel low or bad about them. And so they seem to dissolve. Or somebody comes along and fixes it or something like that. And so everything is frequency. Of course, the highest frequency, surprise, surprise, is love. Love is a higher frequency. So the closer you can take yourself to consciously living, expressing and being love, then the more easily you live life. You see, life is not an outside of self event. This is where everybody gets it wrong. They see life around them because they're looking through their physical eyes. And so you could say, yes, physical life is out there around you, but the metaphysical life that is expressing through that physical life is not outside of you. The frequency you are is the frequency you attract and the frequency you see. And so in a way, you remake your own world, which I mentioned before. You remake your world as you live in it, and the higher your frequency, the more beautiful your world is. If you go through a drought, we have droughts happening a lot nowadays, and I don't like droughts because I'm a gardener, and because I've got 2 acres plus of garden. Droughts are not good as far as I'm concerned, living on top of a mountain. In my world, a river should flow over the mountain, or at least a big stream, but somehow nature doesn't seem to agree with that, and so there are no streams coming over my mountain, and I can't even get bore water. I can't even get a well down. And so for a long time I used to focus on the drought, how bad it was. But one day, revelation, I realized instead of focusing on the drought, what I need to do is focus on the next big rain. The next big rain. Now immediately that made me feel better because it's a nice focus. I do think that if you focus on drought, when you're in a drought, you could extend the drought because everybody else will be doing that. Yes, I actually believe we have that sort of power over the energy in this world that we call rain as well. I do believe that. And I also very much accept that if you, in the drought, focus on rain and begin to feel joy toward, wow, the next rain is coming. I can feel it. It's on its way. Then you will bring it in closer and quicker. But certainly you raise your frequency. And because your frequency is a higher one, then your world wants to meet your needs. And if you're not too attached to it, then the rain will come. And if you think that's fanciful, throw it all away. It's your life that you live. But that's like saying that there are not indigenous people who can do rain dances and it doesn't rain, because they do and can do rain dances, and they do and can bring rain in. And that is a frequency. They are changing their frequency. And one man said to me, it's easy to make it rain, years ago, and I said, how? He said, be rain. And I said, what? He said, think about it. He said, no, feel it. And years later, I began to get it. And so for me, when we're in a drought, I begin to go out, and once a day I go out, and I don't do it for more than about 5 minutes. I am raining. I am raining. And I can't prove that it breaks the drought or brings rain any quicker, but I go out and for a little while I am raining. And the frequency rises, and I suspect that my focus, my imagination, my creativity can connect and bring in rain. Do I accept that? Yes, I do. That's part of my world. And if it's not part of yours, then throw it away. But we have abilities, incredible abilities, and we need to use those abilities. We are connected. We are energy. We are a frequency. Energy is frequencies, and frequencies connect. And so if I want rain, it's no good me focusing on drought. I need to focus on rain. I need to feel the frequency of rain. If I want money, it's no good me focusing on how little I have. I focus on how much I have. In the Bible, to those who have, it shall be given. And from those who have not, it shall be taken. That seems very unfair. Give those who have and take it away from those who haven't. Those who have not focus on what they do not have, and so they have less. Those who have focus on what they do have, and so it grows. It's even in the Bible. It is a great truth. It is a great principle. And it's all to do with frequency. If I need money, or if I need abundance, then I've got to be in the frequency of abundance. And it comes. It doesn't have a choice. It's no good me saying to every time I want to buy something, I can't afford, I can't afford, I can't afford. That is the frequency of poverty. So I focus on the frequency of abundance. Now I don't need to do that focus because I know that in my life all is abundance. It's part of my being, it's who I am. Everything is abundance. I don't need a big bank account because I don't need it. Literally, because I don't fear not having money. And so abundance is in my life. This is the way it works. Most people are still learning techniques to attract money. And if that's what you have to do, then that's what you have to do. I was certainly caught up with those techniques once, and they didn't work for me. One time I, for instance, came across Catherine Ponder, I think it was, something like that, and you tithe. You tithe 10% of your income and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So for 2 years I tithed and it didn't get bigger and bigger. I got less and less and less. And then I realized one day, I thought, thank you, Catherine, fear was tithing. I wasn't tithing from love and freedom to give. I was tithing with an expectation and a want to receive. And so that wasn't tithing. Tithing's freely giving. No expectations, no want. I was tithing, fear was tithing, and I got an abundant, I got whole much more poverty, much more fear. So I quit that once I learned that lesson and started doing it in better ways, ways that work. And so it's all to do with frequency. Some techniques sound brilliant, but they have the wrong frequency. The best frequency is love. So if you love yourself, you allow life to give to you. If you love yourself, you give to yourself. If you love yourself, you move toward freedom. If you love yourself, freedom sets you even freer. All these are rising frequencies. And just like the eagle rising on the thermals that lifted up beneath his wings until it's riding on the thermals of the warm air, so we can rise on the frequencies of love. Which reminds me, it's a very good idea every day to consciously choose love.